2007 and the City Parish Council in 2008. Each of these meetings has left us aware of what more we don't know and understand about the structure and services of our government, and an ever-deepening respect for those who serve the public in office. We therefore compiled a guide to the officials elected by the voters of Lafayette Parish, a PDF on our website kept current with the contact information for each. It is the most comprehensive guide readily available. Now we are pursuing our third study, following the first on public school facilities and the second on full use of Lafayette's fiber network. Our new study is the one most common to local leagues, Know Your Governments. Today's forum officially launches that study, which may take up to 2 years. We invite each of you present to join the League of Women Voters of Lafayette. There is a membership form on the back of your brochure. Men, by the way, are full members. At this time, I'd like to introduce, with great pleasure, 3 of the 5 municipal mayors: Mayor Charles Langley, City of Broussard; Mayor Glenn Brasso, City of Carencro; and Mayor Wilson Viotar, and City Parish President Joey Durrell. Mayor Hazel Meyer, City of Scott, is out of state today, and Mayor Susie Lanya, City of Dusong, is attending a workshop. We are most appreciative of the time those of you here are sharing with us. Our format will be simple. Each mayor will have equal time, 6 minutes, to talk about the present and future issues and challenges for his municipality. We will stop audience questions to each or all of the mayors just before 1 o'clock. Everyone will have the opportunity to ask his or her question, her first question, before anyone may ask a second question. We are here to gain information from the mayors today, so we will focus on questions rather than statements from the audience. As moderator, I will hold us to these guidelines. We'll ask Mayor Wilson Viotar of Youngsville to talk first. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mayor Brasso of Carencro, then Mayor Langley of Broussard, and finally City Parish President Durrell. And I will pass this microphone.
Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I had just jotted a few things down just to give you a little understanding of Carencro. We're roughly 8,000 people, employ about 45 people in all departments, and something new that we're very proud of, it snows each December now in Carencro, which is the upper northern Lafayette municipality in Lafayette Parish. We have a project under construction right now. We have a sidewalk project that's been awaited for many years. It connects downtown Carencro, our main street, to the new library, which is about a half mile. And now we have a continuous walk for a little over a mile, which connects the Consolidated Government Park, which is located at University and Parisian Road, all the way to the community center on the northern part of our city limits. We're very proud. We have a new community center that we built a few years ago between state and local funds. Of course, the new library is a 12,000 square foot library that the city of Carencro donated a little over 4 acres to build. We have a new $500,000 police station that was built a couple of years ago. We're under, right now, we have a capital outlay project that we're opening the bids on December 10th for a new fire station to be located in that area, along with some renovations of our city hall, which is much needed. We're very proud of, at Pelican Park, we have a sidewalk that's, we call it Pelican Walk, that's about a half mile in diameter, which is well lit at night for people to walk, and it's used very much. We just recently opened last week, bids on a federal stimulus project for automatic read meters, which was about a $600,000 project. We also just received a LCDBG grant for about $530,000 for sewer rehabs. Infrastructure is a big problem: water, sewer, roads, drainage, and we continue to work on that on a daily basis. You know, Karen Crowe has the same challenges that the city of Lafayette or the city of Broussard, just on a smaller scale, but our people want a quality of life. Of course, a lot of them lived in smaller municipalities, so they wouldn't have all the regulations in the city of Lafayette. But at this point now, it's getting so populated that we have the same issues. We just passed a land use ordinance. So it's all about trying to educate our public as to, you know, passing regulations to try to keep that quality of life the same standard as everybody else. Of course, some of our problems today and in the future, both is number one, I think, is education. We need an educated workforce in everything, mainly water and sewer. We have to have certifications that need different levels of education. Of course, we have increasing costs in health insurance to our employees and the retirement funds. Anyway, Karen Crow's, we try to be a progressive community, but yet keep our small town atmosphere, and that's a pretty challenging balancing act at times. So anyway, we invite everyone to come out and see what we have. We have many residential and commercial projects that are in the process and ready to be developed. A big project is that Lourdes had purchased 50 acres of land for future development, and I'm sure it's a ways off, but we look forward to something happening there. It's located right off of I-49 near Hector Conley, which is our main interest. Thank you.
Like Glenn, I guess you can pretty much ditto what he said. The city of Broussard has experienced dramatic growth. Put a lot of money in infrastructure in the ground in the last 15, 20 years. We deal with all the same things that Glenn does and Wilson and Joey, except that, you know, when I say on a smaller scale, actually I think Broussard is probably 12 and a half, 13 miles north and south along Highway 90 and 7 or 8 miles east and west along the Bassett-Caffrey corridor. I'm not quite sure what the format other than what you told me, but my feeling was that y'all wanted to discuss the issue of needs and what I think is the needs are for the parish and actually for the city of Broussard. As everything, economic development drives the whole wagon. Back in '97, we commissioned and built Albertsons Parkway. We built it. We did not ask for any participation from consolidated government, nor the school board, nor the sheriff, anyone else. We built the project and completed it in 2000. Well, actually 1999. Since then, we've done 2 or 3 other major capital projects. One was for the widening of Saint Nazaire, which actually was the hinge for the Super Walmart, which is doing quite well. And then in the next, probably in the first week of February, we expect to open up in Bassett-Caffrey. Bassett-Caffrey is very important to the entire southeast corridor of Lafayette Parish. And of course, as you may or may not know, the state is now studying on maybe selecting routes right now on north of Bassett-Caffrey, which will actually go from I-10 in a northerly direction and a loop around Karen Cove. So certainly, I think that's going to probably be the closest we're going to get to a beltway in the next 10, 15 years, unless we somehow manage to fund a true beltway. My issue, certainly water, sewer, drainage, quality of life. But my really number one issue is and always been roads. Joey and I sat down and worked out a referendum, I don't know, 3, 4 years ago, based on and actually Glenn was very involved, based on a parish-wide referendum that would actually be a series of sub-districts that would be road districts. Unfortunately, it did not pass. We asked at that time a 1-cent sales tax. For whatever reason, it didn't pass, and again, that's my number one priority the next 2 or 3 years. I know the economy is not certainly good for proposing referendums, but I really kind of, I see the handwriting on the wall. I do know what's going on with the school board, and I understand they have needs, and I guess what I bring to you, at least the League of Women Voters, is case history of what's happened in Broussard, how it's happened, why it's happened, and directly, but most importantly, a direct economic result in the successes we've had. I'm going to read a few things, but I got several packets. Essentially what I did was 3 years ago I asked Conrad Como to give me a corridor which is 500 feet on either side of Albertsons Parkway. And of course, Albertsons Parkway starts at Youngsville Highway and it goes to Highway 90. I asked him to give me an estimated build out of the projects that are completed because of the building of Albertsons Parkway. We followed it up with case histories. We also did an economic development analysis relative to Caffrey, and why and how we could justify putting up $10 million in Caffrey. Needless to say, we've done that. It's somewhat debatable as to the economic impact or economic pop, if you want to call it a pop, that Albertsons Parkway has done for Broussard, but we estimate that the economic activity, goods and services that are delivered along the Albertsons Parkway in Broussard in the last 5 years has been about an $80 million economic impact. The study that I commissioned with CEC, it did it out of Baton Rouge. They're indicating a $500 million a year economic activity pop for Ambassador Caffrey. Now, what does that relate to taxpayers? Not to mention the fact it makes you easier to move from point A to point B or to point C. Not to mention it also impacts you as far as quality of life, not having to stay in traffic as long. It falls down to increased property tax valuations and consequently property tax receipts, sales tax receipts, etc. When I took office in '90, which is a pretty long time ago, our average sales tax collections were like $29,000 a month. And we used to fight as a councilman. We had one capital outlay project per year, and it was $30,000 a year. So the 5 councilmen we had to literally negotiate politically who was going to get what project one year, and then the next one that would be. It was really it was funny, but it was strange. This year, our capital outlay projects are about $20 million.
Thank you. Thank you. Well,
Okay.
we can maybe continue that conversation in the question and answer
Sure.
on that. City Treasurer.
Thank you. I'll start off with a couple of statements just to stun you a little bit and let you know where we're doing in Lafayette as a parish and as a city. And I know I'm supposed to be speaking strictly as the mayor today, but we can't help but talk about the whole parish. The city of Lafayette is the only city in the state of Louisiana that has gained any population so far this century. Every other city in the state has actually had a net loss since 2000. Every other major city that's defined as 50,000 or more people. Only 8 parishes in the state of Louisiana has gained population since 1980. We've lost about 750,000 people, and that puts us 50th in America in population growth. Of the 8 parishes that have gained any population so far since 1980, Lafayette Parish is the only parish that has gained population legitimately. It's the only parish that has gained population as a direct result of economic development, not as a result of outmigration from other larger cities. Only one parish has gained population north of Interstate 10, and that's Bossier, because of outmigration primarily from Shreveport and some growth from the Air Force Base. So knowing that, I did some town hall meetings recently, went all around the parish, because it seems to me we have a clue that we have a trend in Lafayette, in the Lafayette Parish. And so knowing what my goals are and the dreams that I've had for Lafayette Parish, I also know that I'm one person in a unique position, but I wanted to hear if other people shared that same common goal. And that goal, as Glenn referred to, was economic development. And I say that because, as I said throughout my town hall meetings, we can have great churches, we can have great hospitals, we can have great schools, and we can have great infrastructure. But if our young people don't have a job, they are out of here. And so while we talk about economic development and jobs, and it may not sound warm and fuzzy, as if we don't care about people, it truly is 100% totally all about people. And so in my opinion, and as I try to express to people throughout those meetings, the ultimate goal is for Lafayette simply to be the best place to live and raise a family. Because I think if we accomplish that, the rest will come. Businesses, we know, there are certain businesses, certain retail stores, let's say, have to have a certain volume of traffic in front of it. They're not going to locate, no matter how bad you want them to locate somewhere, if they don't have 30,000 cars, 40,000 cars a day in front of a location, they're simply not going to locate there. But there are many businesses like Pixel Magic, which came here recently as a direct result of our initiative to try to attract the entertainment industry here, the movie industry in particular. They got exposed not only to Lafayette, but they got exposed to the Light Center. And in a lunch I had with them, they said, without the movie, we would not know Lafayette existed, much less the Light Center. And today they're in the process of trying to hire 40 people in good, clean, high-paying jobs over the next 3 years. They also know that if they establish a permanent residence here in Lafayette, that they don't have to necessarily go out and rent expensive office space. That because of the connectivity we will have with our fiber, they can do a lot of their work from a home and still have the security for their industry that they need in the Light Center. So that's one of the challenges. We have, speaking as the mayor of the city of Lafayette, we have unique challenges in the city of Lafayette. We have a consolidated government that is, as I say often, is kind of like sort of consolidated. It's certainly not true consolidation. We still keep two separate books for the city and the parish. It's against the law to spend city dollars out in the parish, which is what the people in the city voted for. I mean, obviously, when the city residents vote for a tax, it has to stay in the city, just like Glenn can't spend his money outside of the city of Broussard or Karen Crow. So, you know, you talk about, we've had recently an LUS issue where one of the things that's unique to us is that while we have 9 councilmen, all of Glenn's councilmen are specific to the city needs. We have only 5 out of 9 that are specific to the city needs. And of course, the parish guys have 5 city guys because parish dollars can be spent anywhere in the parish, not just in the unincorporated areas, where historically they have been spent for the last 30 years. But, you know, so even the 4 parish guys can concern themselves with the fact that the 5 city guys could override them if they wanted to. So it's a very unique dynamic that the other 5 towns don't have to deal with. And so, you know, we could have conceivably had our Lafayette Public Utility Authority vote for a rate increase that would be voted on eventually. It'll just cost you more money now, but would be voted on eventually because it will have to be, because there are consequences for not doing it now. But ultimately, you also had 4 parish guys who don't really have any issue with the city utility company potentially voting on that. And I think most of them would have deferred if the city guys said we need to do this. I would think most of them would have said, well, you know, since we really don't represent that much of the city, we'll acquiesce to you. But I'm just saying it's an added dynamic that we have in the city that doesn't exist in the other small towns. Another issue that is interesting is in talking about communication and understanding of government, and this is said with tongue-in-cheek, but I got invited to this at the last minute because this organization didn't realize that Lafayette had a mayor. And so I say that only because that is, I think, the best way to express the greatest difficulty that we have, and that is communicating with the people of Lafayette. One of the reasons I want to do the town hall meetings. You know, when you have an organization that pays attention and doesn't have a full understanding about the workings of this government, you know, how do you get it to people who don't really pay attention until it's something that's affecting their backyard? And there are a lot of complicated issues, a lot of very complex issues that have to be dealt with, and we rely on 9 council members to educate themselves, and in some cases, despite the fact that their constituents might not like something, they're in a position to have educated themselves and learned something more about the issue that others would not have paid attention to, and they have to make difficult decisions. It's a difficult job that they have, and that's true of all councils. But
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I have to stop you now. So we'll open the forum to your questions. You are free to address your question to a specific panelist or to all of the panelists. And in turn, if there's a response that you have to a question that was addressed to someone else, please feel free to respond to that question. So I will open the floor to questions.
well, that was easy. Thank you very much.
Yes.
This one would maybe follow your talking about the complexity, but I would ask Mr. Grasso and Mr. Longley, what do you consider the most important issue regarding your municipality as far as parish government goes?
Well, I think, you know, there's some people that believe that water should be free. And water, you know, God created water, but, you know, to pull it out of the ground and treat it and everything. Anyway, it's the same thing for, I'm gonna use my wife, and I know I'm gonna get in a bond. She's, you know, every now and then she'll go on the internet and she sees something's free. It's like, nothing is free. You know, there's always a cost. And I'm gonna use the animal control issue that's come up for years, going back to before consolidated government. The parish was providing that service basically for free. At one time there was an agreement, an intergovernmental agreement. I think we paid a very minimum amount for 1 year, and then it was the parish just assumed that they could pick up the tab. And now I think our share was somewhere, the new contract is somewhere around $46,000. And you know, it's not like we have to do it. We have options. We could either contract with the parish, sign an intergovernmental agreement for that amount, or we can go out and hire our own people and build our own animal structure. It's just, you know, and deal with all the insurance problems, and it's just not worth it. So that's just one of the issues that we have to start paying for, that is not free, but it's a service that's needed. Sure.
Relative to the city of Broussard and the outlying areas, in particular the parish, I think the most important thing is interconnectivity. When I say that, for instance, where Pinhook is 4-laned all the way to South Park, the widening or 4-laning, for instance, the Youngsville Highway all the way to Youngsville. You have this pretty much all over the parish, where you have a decent arterial that narrows down to a 2-lane highway that was built in the 50s and 60s, and that's really my biggest issue there is, you know, you need to fix that. And how do you do it? How do you fund it? That's what I think we were attempting to do when we pushed that referendum forward, and of course it wasn't voted on positively. One of the points that I would like to make.
It's positively voted against.
It was positively voted against. Actually, it did fairly well, considering. But you know, I'm bringing this case history relative to financials that nowhere in the state of Louisiana have I've been able to determine what actually happens when an entity builds a road, and what are the results financially to all the taxing jurisdictions, etc. And I guess the long and short of it, just this little $3 million project has generated, you know, a taxing district, if you will, that's, you know, you've got roughly 80 million in direct result per year. Consequently, the school board, the sheriff, the airport, everybody receives more property taxes. We receive more sales taxes, et cetera. It's one of these things, you know, you build it and everybody benefits by it. And that's why, where I think y'all are going, and if I'm not understanding, I think y'all are trying to address the issues of the parish and actually do a groundswell support to some kind of answer to the problem.
Did you want me to say something? No?
But that's
I
up
thought
to
you
you.
asked me
That's
the
up to
question.
you. That's up to you. I was asking them because you were speaking from the city parish perspective, but if you certainly.
No, go ahead. Go to your next question.
Maybe that's a worthwhile question to ask if I like.
What's that?
Taking this hat off and putting this other hat on, what's the major issue that the city of Lafayette has with the city parish of Lafayette? As mayor, asking the mayor president.
Well, I mean, the truth is, from a technical standpoint, much didn't change. I mean, you still have city taxes that have to be spent in the city, so we deal with that. And look, it's not a knock to the parish council members, but I'd say the biggest challenge, because they've inherited a system, you know, like I did. We didn't come in and create consolidation, but the biggest challenge often is that you have, you know, most mayors have a city council with certain dynamics on that council that cause a certain amount of divisiveness, let's say, or as I say often, and it's nothing unique, but you generally have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, whatever the city is, people elected together that mostly would have never come together naturally, socially. You know, they kind of met for the first time on that council. And so certainly in the towns, even the size of Lafayette, often we know each other, so that's a starting point. But you have differences of how you see things. And so every city council, I remember when the mayor of, was it Charlotte that came to Lafayette a year or two ago, and he and I were having lunch, no, it was Charleston, wasn't it the mayor of Charleston that came to Lafayette, Joe Riley, I think, and he and I were talking, he was talking about the dynamics of his, I think, 12-member council or so, and city council, and it was almost then that I realized that he had members elected who, again, as I said a while ago, that were for the city, and Lafayette has city issues that you have to get a majority of people, which don't all even live in the city, you know. So I mean, I think that's sometimes the biggest challenge, because, you know, if you don't, it'd be like you or I try to vote for something that was associated with New Iberia. We don't live there. We don't really fully participate in everything that happens in there, and it's just I hate to call it a difficulty, but it's a dynamic that's unique to us and to Baton Rouge, actually.
It's magnified compared to small town politics.
Well, I mean, and again, it's not an ugly thing. It's not a knock in any way at all. It's a unique dynamic that doesn't exist in most cities in America. It's just a very unique dynamic.
You know, if I can say something, all the municipalities, the 5 small municipalities of the city of Lafayette, there's some, I guess, behind the scenes and sometimes in the middle of it or out in public bickering about different projects. But we all understand that, you know, we all in this together, that the small municipalities around the city of Lafayette would not exist to that, to the state in which they're in now if it wouldn't be for the city of Lafayette. And also we provide, we're you know, a lot of us are bedroom communities to Lafayette, so they need, there's just no more room in Lafayette in the city to develop subdivision stuff. So it's a partnership that we have, but we understand that what's good for Lafayette is good for us, and vice versa. So It's to try to get that balancing act that's the big problem. Because there's limited funds out there and we're all fighting for the same funds.
And look, and we're gonna all sort of compete. You know, I mean, Charlie's legal focus is Broussard. Glenn's legal focus is Karen Crow, and all the way down the line. I'm in a unique position in that I've got to balance that competition, let's say, you know, that need for the city of Lafayette, because I'm a strong believer, I sincerely do believe, that if the city of Lafayette goes down, all of Acadiana will go down. I mean, I strongly believe that. So we recognize that Acadiana is important to Lafayette, but Acadiana needs to recognize that Lafayette's important to Acadiana. And I want to go back to what Glenn said a while ago about things being free. It has never, ever, ever been free. Nothing has been free. But the way we are paying for parks and recreation right now, the way we are paying for the jail, the way we are paying for doing things at the courthouse is called subsidizing. We're taking money that used to be able to go to fixing your roads, cleaning your ditches, filling potholes, and things like that, and are taking that money to subsidize these other things. And you know, you can debate this one all day long, but we are not. You can't debate this fact. We're the lowest taxed parish by a lot in the state of Louisiana that has a major city in it. We're the lowest taxed major city in the state of Louisiana, and so we've done very well. When you look at what other cities, I mean, just recognize the fact that Lafayette Parish pays about 85 mills in property taxes. 34 of those mills, I believe, roughly goes to the school system. In St. Tammany Parish, they pay 87 mills just to their school system. They pay more millage to their school system than we pay in its entirety in the parish of Lafayette. So that's a good thing or it's a bad thing. If you want good schools, it's a bad thing. If you want low taxes, obviously it's a good thing. And so, you know, it's always about some balance. And I believe there's about to be a revolution in St. Tammany Parish because their taxes are so high. And but anyway, it's all about balance and doing what you can with what we have to work with. But just understand that everything that we are required to do, because by the way, the jail, the courthouse, and things like that are required for us to do statutorily. The state, by law, we have to take care of those things. In the end, and we've had this conversation real briefly before, but ultimately, I think the first thing that will get cut at some point, someday in the future, will be parks and recreation, because we're not required to do that by law. And so at some point, we're going to need to quit subsidizing something that is a quality of life issue that's important, to take care of the things that we're required by law to take care of.
Yes.
Okay, what is the purpose and power of the Council of Governments, and what possible functions or direction do you see for the Council of Government in the future?
Well, I'll start since my voice is still kind of fresh. I think the most important thing that it does is it allows us, it almost forces us to communicate. I mean, I think we do a pretty good job overall of getting together and visiting when necessary, but it does bring everybody in the parish together, and in a sort of formal but still relaxed atmosphere where we don't have, you're not making decisions that are real personal or anything like that to your community, and when you do have things to talk about, like the animal control contract, it gives you an environment to talk in, again, in a less rigid, formal atmosphere.
To start the format.
Yeah.
You know, we can discuss things that the 5 smaller mayors, along with Joey, you know, but it's hard. I think we understand, have a pretty good comprehension of you know, what the needs are and what needs to be done. But when you get each council, that's a tough thing to do, to try to educate each council person in the municipalities, including the city. So I think the purpose of COG, you know, we meet every other month. I think that is the original intent to try to share those issues with council people. And the real disappointing thing is that a lot of them don't attend. But for whatever reason, you know, they have busy schedules, it's busy lives, and I think we're not using COG to the as the best tool to get that information. I think there's work to be done, but I think it's there if we would use it.
So do y'all meet like on a regular basis, like monthly, or?
We
just
meet,
mainly
we
like
meet
the mayors?
every other month.
Okay.
There's a scheduled meeting, and we have an executive committee which is made up of the mayors now in COG, and COG is Council of Governments, and that was, I've been on the city council in Carencro since 1978. It was in effect in those days. Probably started in the early 70s, I would think. But the executive committee is made up of the mayors and the school board. So, you know, a few years ago, the school board, you know, they do their thing, we do our thing. We all have our own needs, and we have to raise our own money. And sometimes we forget that I try to be active in going to schools, visiting the school at least once or twice a year. And right at the beginning of the year, I was talking to a principal about these 2 new subdivisions that were being built. One was about a half mile, and the other one was right across the fence, and she wasn't aware of that. And she said, it looks like there would be some kind of sharing of information, because you know, the local school administrators have to project like a year in advance some of the building needs, whether they nowadays is these portable buildings. And she said, you know, we would just project just a normal growth, not knowing about the new subdivisions. And you know, we do things, and I think we've come a long way to try to incorporate with the school board to let him know what's happening. But I think COG would be a good tool if it's used properly.
Yes.
This question would be for whoever wants to address it, but listening to you talk, having watched the council at work for a while, what do you think the effect would be of adding at-large councilmen, and would you support it?
Well, do y'all have at-large, or are you by districts?
Well, in Carencro, let me just say that we're different than other municipalities, I believe, in that Carencro, we run at large. I have 5 councilmen that all run at large. And, you know, some people question about, well, shouldn't it be done by district like everybody else? It's like, we just kind of feel that, let's say you have a problem in your neighborhood. Well, basically, you know, you can go to your councilperson, and the mayor first. In our community, you know, people contact all 5 councilmen and the mayor. And it's not, there's not this infighting about what's best for this district. And if you have a strong councilperson in a certain district, then they get all the funds or projects. So we, you know, in Carencro, we are all at large, and that's the way it's been. And I'm not saying that's the way it's going to continue, but it works well for us, and I think pretty much everybody agrees with that.
Can I redirect my question? I guess I wasn't clear.
Are you talking about unconsolidated adjustment? Well, I think the whole, I mean, I guess that would be a legal issue, and you'd have to go back, I guess, to the charter commission or whatever, change the charter.
It'd take a vote to change the charter, and I have talked about that since I've been in office. I don't think we could ever do all at large. I don't think it'd ever get past the Justice Department or anything like that, but I strongly have felt since I've been in office that we should have at least 2 council districts at large, because there's some pretty, to me, obvious reasons. I mean, when I first got elected, the Louisiana Municipal Association assigned a parish president, Aaron Broussard, as my mentor, sort of, because he represented an area, the parish president, and they felt it was the closest thing to a right fit. He came over with a bunch of his staff one day and was stunned to find out that we had 9 council members, none of which were elected at large, which, and this, as he put it, this was his words, you're the only one that has to see the big picture. Everybody else can focus just on their little district if they wanted to. And so I could see, in an ideal world, we would have 9 at-large councilmen. I think that would be the best thing in the world. But I don't think it'll ever happen. I'm not sure we'll ever get 2 at-large.
Yes.
Quick follow-up. You earlier said your largest sort of difficulty with the relationship between the city parish and the city of Lafayette was precisely that the council was composed of folks who didn't necessarily have Lafayette, the city's direct interest in heart in all matters. So there's no city council. Wouldn't that just aggravate the problem?
Yep. And so you probably, and so I would stand, obviously that's why you don't always make the decisions by yourself, because that would not be, I think in effect, it would probably ultimately work. But no, you'd have to, I think you would have to make sure that the city, and in particular because of the LPUA and Lafayette utility system, has to have people who are actually owners voting on it.
Yes.
A question, please, about the comprehensive plan that's been in the news to the other 2 mayors. If Lafayette is able to move that forward, do you see the other municipalities piggybacking on? Because if I understand it right, it would just affect the city of Lafayette and the incorporated areas. But I know you guys are affected, and I don't know, Broussard's, I apologize for this, I don't know about your zoning regulations. I know that Karen Crow just adopted more of a land use type of.
Yeah, we've, everything that was really in the Link package, we're incorporating by zoning, which we introduced a plan. It's actually in effect as of 30 days ago. Stormwater retention, signage, even down to wireless tower locations, etc. We've incorporated into the subsequent ordinances that will actually cover that basis. So, and we're doing it in a step-by-step. In other words, we zoned Ambassador Caffrey with those particular coverage areas. The next step will be South Broussard, which is where we feel significant growth will happen. Then we're going to move in on a district basis. In other words, study one district at one time. So we've done pretty much all of that. I'm a proponent of good land use zoning.
I think a comprehensive plan for the parish would be good as an outsider. A couple of weeks ago, they have issues, and it comes up constantly where basically you can almost do anything out in the parish for developments, and when it's time, first of all, the general public doesn't want to deal with regulations, and they feel like, well, we should be able to do with our property whatever we want, and government shouldn't be involved until it affects them. I had that problem in Carencro many years ago, back in the early 80s. We had looked at zoning, and we had actually formed a committee that met for over a year, and I mean, the document was a big document and a lot of time put into it, and it never came up to the council even, because when some people found out, it was like we were trying to
Politics.
Yeah, we were trying to do something on the table, which we had open meetings and nobody would attend, and forever and ever. Well, everything was fine until a number of years back, excuse the term, but I use a junkyard came up on our main entrance on University from Lafayette, and the same people that were saying that, hey, it's none of your business with land use and zoning, now they're blaming us for how could you let that happen to us. So I think a lot of the problems that go on with the Consolidated Council on issues of subdivisions, as soon as it comes up, there were probably half of the auditorium was full of people that were against it, And then all of a sudden, well, now they saying that they should have some kind of plan in place. So I think it would be good for all of us.
Yes.
I guess this kind of ties in with the comprehensive plan and link, but you said earlier about, Mr. Durrell, about economic development, which is very important, and that's the problem, you know, a lot of people move out of state because they can't find certain jobs, and I'm looking at the environmental aspect. Is there any plans of, you know, keeping with progressing, but building the infrastructure in a green sort of way, green infrastructure as well?
One of the interesting things in my series of town hall meetings that if there was anything that surprised me, because I will tell you, one of the unique perspectives that I get as parish president is to know that no matter where I go, the issues are pretty much the same. Everybody thinks that only their part of the world doesn't have this or has this or whatever the issue is, and it's identical throughout the parish. But the one thing that if there was any one thing that surprised me was, not that I haven't heard this before, but where it came from, and that was, I'd say if there was any one single thing, it was the discussion of bike trails. I was surprised of some of the corners that it came from. You know, you wouldn't have thought that would have been a big issue in maybe in Dusson, you know, or something. I mean, really, I mean, I'm just saying it surprised me to hear people care about that. And by the way, the meeting I left to come here was about doing really the nice bike trail we've already talked about between Lafayette and St. Martin Parish. But anyway, so it's, you know, to answer your question, yes. But I'll give you an example of the issue. College Saloon Road to be extended between Ambassador Caffrey to Highway 733. They came to me a year or so ago and said, you can have a road that's just like the rest of College Saloon Road. You can have a road that's got, you know, some sidewalks on it, or you can have a road that's got this where you have, because sidewalks to me up against the road, I like not having sidewalks at all. It's a good place to pull your car up if you're having a flat tire or something. But you don't see a lot of people riding their bikes up and down College Saloon Road and Ambassador Caffrey because you've got cars going 55 miles an hour that far from you. And so I've always felt, and in fact, Ambassador Caffrey should have it, but several years ago when I was on the Citizens Advisory Committee, I'm the one that said what I just said, and that there should be green space between the sidewalk and the road with trees planted between it to where you had hope that if a car went off the road, maybe, you know. So anyway, getting back to College Saloon Road, ultimately I decided it's got to be what we have already. And it's only because of money. To go from this, which is what we already have, to this, which is what we would all dream of having, simply cost more money, more time, more controversy, more right-of-way acquisition, and ultimately, as I said already, more time. And that road needs to be taken care of. So we have what we'd like to have, and we have what we're forced to have. And in a case like that, where we had an opportunity to do something wonderful, we don't have the ability to do something wonderful. And so with the needs that we have, as Charlie's referred to several times, and we all know it, and that is the necessity for building roads and fixing roads and building the infrastructure. It kind of becomes almost a no-choice sort of situation.
And LUS, it's a city utility, it's owned by the city of Lafayette. I understand that it contributes 5% of its income to the general fund.
Oh no, more than that.
More than that for the city parish.
It doesn't contribute, but yes, you're right.
For
it's
city
not,
parish.
right. No, for the city. It has to stay in the, I saw something recently that came out of one organization against the rate increase. It was kind of like going back to not knowing there's a mayor here. I couldn't believe some of the things I read in there, you know, because it was implying that some of that money went to the parish, and it doesn't, and that's the uninformed the frustration that we have to deal with.
Okay, so that money stays, it is used only by the city of Lafayette.
Right. And by the way, that's in lieu of taxes, and that's just a legal technical term because government doesn't pay taxes, so they pay in lieu of taxes, which is taxes. And it just calls something different. But if you didn't have LUS and you had another company providing
Be paying
services,
tax, right?
they'd be paying those taxes. So it is simply to kind of keep it where not only is LUS kept on what we might refer to as a level playing field, but the community, whereas if the town of Broussard, the city of Broussard is getting a utility company, they're probably getting some sort of tax as a result of that. So if we had another company doing it for us, we'd be getting that tax. So LUS is simply paying, although they're paying at a higher rate, but it is the goose that laid the golden egg for Lafayette. As I said earlier, we are the lowest taxed city in the state of Louisiana by a lot. That's one reason we're able to do that, because we have a utility company that's able to pay a little bit in taxes, a little bit more than what would probably be paid if it wasn't LUS.
Well, why not allow LUS to keep more of its own funds so that,
Not a problem.
so that we don't have these brownouts and
Well, I mean, it's,
these other problems that.
we just cut,
forecast?
we just had to cut something else, you know, police or fire. I mean, there's consequences to everything. LUS is the cheap, we pay in Lafayette, city of Lafayette, we pay less than 85% of the people in Louisiana right now.
I
And,
agree with you, I
Yeah.
agree with you.
and so it's, you could conceivably let LUS keep a little bit more of that money, in theory, but you just gotta tell us what service you're willing to give up, you know? And I mean, I ask people often for, a couple of years ago, tell us where you want us to cut government, and I never heard anything that was of any significance, you know. And what I said was, the way I put it was, you tell me what you were willing to have us cut right now, with only one little caveat to that: it can't be something you don't use. It's got to be something you participate in today. So if your children are through playing soccer, don't tell me to cut out soccer. If your children are playing soccer and you say discontinue soccer in Lafayette Parish, that's a legitimate offer. But I need to know what you're willing to give up, because everything that LUS contributes, of course, is paying for something. And again, whether it's fire and police or whatever is going to the general fund, you have to be willing to give up something. And when you have the lowest, when you're paying, even if with our rate increase, if we'd have gotten that, and again, we're going to get it. It may cost you a little bit more later, but it'll be forced on us eventually. But even if with the rate increase, you still would have been paying less than 85% of the people in Louisiana. And so we have a again, it comes back to that balance. You know, is raising the rates unnoticeably more important and it's more significant than reliability? And so you got a business to run. As I've told several councilmen, you may make some political decisions, which I don't like. I mean, it makes me have to take a bath when I hear that kind of stuff. But you may make some political decisions that you think are important to your reelection. You may make some decisions based on your convictions. This would not be one of those. And you're going to have to make some decisions based on the position you have. And you've got a business to run, and a business's number one responsibility, every business that exists in America, their single most important responsibility is to their bottom line, bar none. Because without a healthy bottom line, they don't employ anybody, they don't provide services, they don't contribute to Big Brothers Big Sisters, they don't contribute to Boys and Girls Club, they do nothing for the community. But most importantly, they don't provide the goods and services they're required to provide. So the number one responsibility that a business has is to make sure it is successful, because without that, it's gone. And so the Lafayette Utility Systems is a business. It was made different than the rest of government. It is different than Parks and Recreation. It's different than Public Works. It's meant to compete in the private sector. It was set up that way 100 years ago. And if it's like I told one councilman, he said, man, he said, the day the headline hit, I got 20 emails from people complaining about potentially raising their rates. I said, save those emails. Because if they go without electricity for 2 or 3 weeks, see what those same people are talking to you about. It won't be about $1 a month increase in their rates, I promise you. What about the people who are relying on medical equipment? You know, what about, you can go on and on and on, you know, economic ramifications if the grocery stores can't serve food, can't sell anything for a week. And by the way, who can't they serve that food to, and the other things that they need to serve? You, the people who need those things. So It's not necessarily an easy decision. I think it's a very easy decision. I never have understood the difficulty with that decision. LUS hasn't raised its rates since 1998 for operations. The price of copper has gone up, the price of steel has gone up, the price of concrete has gone up, so we got a business to run.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question. Okay, well then, in conclusion, I'd like to thank our panelists, Mayor Brasso, Mayor Langlois, City Parish President, and Mayor Durrell. Thank you all for coming. I do want to invite you to our second forum of environmental groups. It's the first Monday in February 1st. It's going to be the same time, 11:30, same place here at SLCC. And we hope to see you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.